congratulations. I wanted to ask initially, it is eerily relevant given rise and kind of outspoken hate crimes and just that very recent events that maybe embolden some of these kinds of groups. And I'm wondering if that process, the process of making the movie and it being released is like, how do you feel about its connection and relationship to what's happened currently? Because it's about something from a while ago, and did it impact the process at all? Do you wish it was coming out in a vacuum where it was necessarily going to be drawn to those parallels?
Oh, look, I think I mean, look, I read it as a sort of genre film, and I was actually quite shocked. 'Cause, I mean, being from Australia, I was actually quite shocked that it was based on true events, and um, but very much saw it as a kind of as a film that played, uh, in that particular time frame and about those particular events. But I got to say, after reading it and coming on, and then starting to sort of work with Zach on the sort of next draft, January 6th happened, and you sort of start to see the kind of prop nooses that are hanging outside hanging outside the Capitol building, which is a sort of which is sort of one of the chapters in the Turner Diaries that features in the film called Day of the Rope. And then someone's seen kind of with a copy of the Turner Diaries. So you sort of start to understand, wow, the tentacles of, what this story was way back in the 80s are actually still kind of playing. And, and I guess as we've made the film and as it's being edited and now it's sort of coming out, there's a temperature that's happening in the world at the moment that is definitely having a very direct conversation with this film. But for us, it wasn't about pushing that. It was always about, this is the story we're telling in this sort of time and period. And scarily, there are a lot of things in it that are starting to kind of speak much more to kind of where we're at.
And to be honest, I think the reason it works and can address all those things is because it is an effective story just on a character and drama level. You talked about it kind of connecting to ideas of family. The character of Terry, in some ways, is an archetypal hardened detective. He's got a bit of a past, but you and Jude combined to create something that feels so alive and fresh. Can you talk about what, like, in creating that character and making him the focal point? He's so compelling. Like, what goes into that? Because that's how we get all the messages, and the rest of it is through that.
Yeah. No, it's the lens into the film is that character, and I think, I mean, Zach and I have sort of always loved and talked about those kind of they are slightly archetypal characters from a great period of 70s filmmaking in America, where a Gene Hackman and a French Connection just comes on screen, and you learn about the history of him and who he is through the way he kind of plays within each of the scenes, rather than this whole context of his past. And we sort of wanted to bring a little bit of that into the order, where you feel as though this is a guy sort of at the end of his career. There's been a lot to pay. He's been sort of investigating in New York mobsters and other hate groups and so forth, but he comes to this place to take breath, and then suddenly finds himself in the middle of one of the biggest hate crimes that have sort of happened in America at the time, and one of the first sort of domestic terrorist groups. So there was this sort of sense of him being an outlier in that place, and sort of a fish out of water in a sense. And at the same time, it is really that place in his life and that weariness and that sense of experience that allows him to kind of connect much more and get much more closer to this group. So it was great. There was a brevity to kind of what was around him, but there was a huge amount of depth that sort of Jude put into how he behaved within each of the scenes, that gave you a sense of who he was, and and what he sees in terms of what's coming.
Yeah, well, thank you again. I have to wrap, but I really appreciate it. You did an excellent job, and I'm very excited for the film. Thanks so much for your time,
Thank
Jude.
you. Cheers.
Bye.